day 5, so that makes this the 20th Super Sentai season in 1996, and that was Gekiso Sentai Carranger. Yep, as ridiculous as that was kind of fun. So just straight into the things I liked, things that kind of threw me off guard. This isn't really something that caught me off guard, or at least not at first, because let's just say the Go Carranger episode I watched before kind of prepped me for this. And Carranger is actually supposed to be considered kind of a parody of the Super Sentai genre. Usually the teams try to fight for justice and peace. Like literally the theme of this one is to fight for traffic safety. So it was just kind of a fun way to make fun of itself. It was lighthearted. I think it was kind of continuing on from the previous year, in which it was supposed to be a heavy, dark season. A tragedy occurred, so they had to change the tone of it. So I think they just tried to kind of keep that going by just doing a lighthearted season. And they actually happened to coincide with the 20th anniversary, or the 20th season. Kind of just occurred to me, maybe Ranger had the theme that it did before it changed tone, because that was actually the 20th anniversary of this series. It just occurred to me, because it's easy for me to forget that Ranger actually lasted 2 years. That's why the year anniversary and the anniversary year are off by 1 year. And here, in my notes, I have written, it took a step away from the community service, and instead, it felt more centered on a select few group of characters. Again, this was before I had my revelation with Carranger, but I did feel like it made it more cohesive. I think I'd also see this in later seasons, where they kind of focus around a specific group of people, but I'll get to that when I get to those seasons. And as ridiculous as the Red Racer and Zonette Romeo Juliet style of romance, it was funny. I think it played into the parody theming of it really well. It was just fun. You don't really get a lot of romance, or at least I didn't notice a lot in terms of romance when I was watching through these. So it's kind of a nice, fun add-in. So I guess some of the things that threw me off, I feel like there were a noticeable amount of, how do I put this, boob shots and panty shots on Zonette. And I think part of it is because it was supposed to be a parody. And I mean, it didn't throw me off that much, because I think I'd seen it enough in anime, or at least in terms of the animes I was exposed to. But I think I just noticed it more because, I don't think I ever mentioned this, but these first few months of 2019, I would watch episodes when I was on the treadmill, or actually when I was on the elliptical. So 3 episodes a day, so about an hour. So, but I would watch them at my local gym, which means I was in public. And yeah, sometimes it might show up in some people's peripheral vision, so maybe I just noticed it more because I was in a public space, so I was just really conscious of it. Because every time it popped up, I'm like, oh, come on. And I try to cover the screen. I mean, I kind of did it when I watched a few K-dramas when I was on the elliptical too, like the few months before. Although, to be fair, I don't think I noticed it quite as much in moving forward in later seasons. But, so, I think part of it was to play on the parody sort of tone that this season had. I think it was also here I started to notice, like, for a while, the villain, or the villain side, would have some pretty or cute villainesses. That's all I'll say. Yeah, Signal Man was a lot more prevalent than I expected. Maybe I should have mentioned this first, but so it was actually with this season I started to remember more and more episodes, or at least situations. When I saw certain scenes, I'm like, oh, they totally used that in the Power Rangers adaptation. For instance, the baseball episode where Red Racer had to counter a pitch attack. There was the one where they were all baked into pizza. There was the one where I remember all the mechs, or some of the mechs, were in like weird clothes, because it would mind control the mechs, and then there was the one where like two mechs were in front of each other, next to each other, and then one ranger had to jump to the other to free up the other one. I don't know why I remember those, but I slowly started remembering those scenes. And I think my memory, especially of growing up with these, starts to play into how I interpret some of the later seasons moving forward. Yeah, so because of that, I feel like Signal Man was surprisingly a lot more prevalent in what I noticed. This season didn't have a Sixth Ranger, so it had an extra Ranger, and I guess Signal Man fulfills that role. I didn't notice that they actually did like a short, like maybe 10-15 minute segment at the very end after the end credits song of real life traffic rules. Unfortunately, I didn't notice that until like the last couple episodes, because I would always try to skip through those so I could, finish my treadmill workout within the hour. Come to think of it, this is probably where some of my interest and fascination with cars come from. Now that I think about it. Or at least that Power Rangers Turbo did. Man, I always wanted that. Was it Pegasus Lightning? The red convertible that could fly. Ooh. But then I also like whatever the blue one was. I think in this one it was a Pegasus and a dragon. It's supposed to be it was kind of interesting. Gekiso was supposed to be like a constellation type of deal, and then it was kind of wacky, but it played into it and it was fun to watch. Anyway, on to my favorite episode. So my favorite episode was episode 40, and it's kind of weird. Nani whatever anyway, a scramble intersection robo. If I had known how many of these types of episodes were going to be my favorites, I probably would have tried to diversify my favorite episodes a little bit more, but I didn't really notice it until it was too late. This is another episode where the Ranger, or in this case Minoru, Green Racer, trusts a monster, believing that the monster doesn't want to be the monster that it is. So he kind of takes it in, tries to take care of it so that they can eventually get him away from the monster life, or in this case the Bozak biker gang life. This one hits differently because usually in those episodes the monster actually tries to do better, and the only time that they really attack the monster is in the beginning, before they come to an understanding, and or after, when the monster is somehow brainwashed or whatever by the villain, and sometimes the Rangers had to put it out of its misery. But this one hit differently because it started out that way, but it didn't end that way. It actually betrayed the Ranger. It betrayed Green Racer, and it was really made apparent how much it hurt at the very end, when he and the other Rangers kind of gathered together, and he's trying to say, like, he's kind of too hurt to admit that he's sorry, but it's because he and the other Rangers already know that, and that's not the point of them meeting up. The Rangers are actually meeting up with him at the end to comfort him because he knows how much it hurt. Because throughout the episode, when Green Racer was trying to take care of the monster, he was like showing him all his things from his hometown, which I think was like Kyoto, because he shared with him the takoyaki. He shared his I think his favorite baseball team, and things like that. So then when he got betrayed that way, it really hurt him, and the other Rangers kind of showed up to kind of comfort him. They didn't try to rub in his face, because most of these episodes, usually one is skeptical, or at least the others are skeptical, and in this case they were right. But they don't need to rub it in his face. They know, but at the end of it, he's hurt, and because he's hurt, everyone's hurt. And just the way they shoot it, they frame it, it ends with him walking off, singing his I think it was like his baseball team's theme song or something, or like a cheer, and he's walking off trying to move on and be positive, but the camera pans and it shows how hurt everyone is, and how they hurt for him. I guess I'll first start with a fun fact about that episode. That episode kind of started to showcase the interchangeability of the mecha abilities moving forward, because in this episode the mecha, they have like two main mechas, and then they had to switch the arms and the legs just because that's what the situation called for. And that's actually the first time that something like that has happened. And so, they start to incorporate more of these interchangeable parts, mechas. Yeah, that's just a fun fact. So, the reason why this episode stood out to me, other than the fact that, it kind of plays on the classic, there's a monster that doesn't want to be a bad guy, but then in this case it betrays them, and how it hurts them. I think the reason why it stood out to me is because this episode was supposed to be a parody season, or just a very lighthearted season. So something like this, something this deep, actually like sticks out a lot. And maybe I'm inflating it, but at the time when I was watching, even I could feel a little bit hurt for Green Racer. I think that the end scene where Green Racer is trying to walk away, almost kind of walk it off and try to be positive, and it shows the other Rangers and it shows their faces and how they hurt for him. I think it shows that even though the series was considered a parody, it actually had a lot of heart. Even though it was lighthearted, it had a lot of heart. And I kind of think it's kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like when everyone first heard about it, it was like, so a raccoon, a tree, two aliens, and a human are a team. But then when it came out and how it did, everyone was like genuinely